Character's introduction for Moby Dick. First up, we have Ishmael, the narrator for the story. Ishmael, the narrator of Moby Dick, is a restless and contemplative young man who turns to the sea as a remedy for his dissatisfaction with life on land. Seeking adventure and purpose, he joins a whaling voyage aboard the Pequod, captained by the enigmatic and obsessed Ahab. Ishmael is both an observer and participant in the story, providing a thoughtful and often philosophical perspective on the events that unfold. His reflections on humanity, nature, and the unknown depths of the ocean give the novel its profound and meditative tone, while his curiosity and open-mindedness guide readers through the perilous and unpredictable world of whaling. Ishmael, whose name alludes to the biblical outcast, embodies a sense of alienation and introspection. He is a drifter, weary of the constraints of society and seeking meaning through the freedom of the sea. Unlike many of the other characters, Ishmael approaches the world with a sense of wonder and humility. His journey aboard the Pequod is not just a physical voyage, but a spiritual and existential quest. He is deeply philosophical, often pausing to reflect on the complexities of life, fate, and the nature of the universe, which he contemplates in light of the vast and mysterious sea. Ishmael's narrative is rich with digressions, scientific observations, and metaphysical musings, making him not just a storyteller, but a philosopher-poet. His openness to diverse cultures, as shown in his friendship with QueeQueg, a tattooed harpooner from a distant land, highlights his broad-mindedness and his willingness to embrace difference in a world that is often divided by fear and prejudice. Ultimately, Ishmael's survival at the end of the novel, floating alone on the ocean after the Pequod's catastrophic encounter with Moby Dick, cements his role as the lone witness to Ahab's doomed obsession and the indifference of nature. Ishmael's character is notable for his fluid identity and role in the narrative. He is not the typical hero or protagonist in the traditional sense, as much of the novel's action is driven by Captain Ahab and the crew's pursuit of Moby Dick. Instead, Ishmael serves as a reflective observer, more like a conduit through which the reader experiences the vast, unknowable world of whaling and the ocean. His curiosity is boundless, and he frequently delves into complex digressions on topics ranging from the biology of whales to the tools and traditions of whalers, showcasing his thirst for knowledge and understanding. Despite his often detached tone, Ishmael's voice conveys the underlying tension of someone grappling with the larger forces of fate, nature, and the divine. He is both fascinated and terrified by the vastness of the sea, which symbolizes the uncaring, chaotic forces of the universe. His observations on the camaraderie aboard the Pequod also reveal an appreciation for the diverse crew, an assemblage of different nationalities, beliefs, and backgrounds, which serves as a microcosm of humanity itself. Ishmael's friendship with QueeQueg, in particular, challenges the racial and cultural prejudices of the time, revealing his open-heartedness and willingness to embrace what others might fear or shun. As a narrator, Ishmael straddles the line between a subjective recounting of his own experiences and an omniscient, almost mystical voice that can describe the inner workings of other characters and the grand scope of Ahab's obsession. His journey aboard the Pequod thus becomes a meditation on life and death, on man's place in the cosmos, and on the inscrutable forces that drive us all, whether we are aware of them or not. By the end, Ishmael emerges not just as a survivor of the Pequod's doomed voyage, but as a kind of prophet, bearing witness to the folly of hubris and the vast, indifferent power of nature. His survival on the open sea, clinging to QueeQueg's coffin, is a potent symbol of his endurance and adaptability in a world filled with both wonder and danger. Next, meet QueeQueg, a somewhat peculiar character who becomes a great friend of Ishmael. QueeQueg, one of the most memorable characters in Moby Dick, is a harpooner from the fictional South Sea island of Kokavoko. He is initially introduced as an intimidating figure, covered in tattoos and practicing strange rituals, but he quickly reveals himself to be gentle, honorable, and compassionate. Despite his outwardly savage appearance, QueeQueg embodies nobility and wisdom, often outshining the more civilized characters in the story. His deep friendship with Ishmael, which begins in a comical and awkward encounter at an inn, becomes one of the novel's central relationships, symbolizing the crossing of cultural divides and the shared humanity that transcends race and background. QueeQueg's skill as a harpooner is unmatched, and his fearlessness in the face of danger reflects his spiritual belief in fate. His coffin, which he has carved for himself in preparation for death, ultimately becomes a life-saving object for Ishmael, solidifying QueeQueg's role as both a literal and symbolic protector. QueeQueg's presence in Moby Dick is striking not only for his physical appearance, but for the depth of his character, which challenges the prejudices and assumptions of the time. When Ishmael first encounters him, he is startled by QueeQueg's exotic looks, his body covered in intricate tattoos and his strange, unfamiliar customs. Yet, beneath this initial sense of foreignness, QueeQueg demonstrates a profound sense of dignity, kindness, and loyalty, traits that endear him to Ishmael and the rest of the crew. His calm demeanor, generosity, and sense of personal honor make him a paragon of virtue, and his behavior often contrasts with the moral complexity or weaknesses of the civilized characters around him. QueeQueg's backstory adds another layer of intrigue to his character. Born a prince on his native island, he chose to leave his royal heritage behind in search of adventure and wisdom among different cultures. His journey is driven by a desire to learn from the world rather than rule over it, which underscores his humility and philosophical nature. Despite encountering prejudice and misunderstanding, QueeQueg remains remarkably open-minded and unshaken in his values. His bond with Ishmael is immediate and deep, a relationship founded on mutual respect and trust, transcending racial and cultural boundaries. The two men, who share a bed in a moment that begins with awkwardness and ends with camaraderie, represent a rare and powerful example of interracial friendship in 19th-century literature. On board the Pequod, QueeQueg's role is not only that of a skilled harpooner, but also a spiritual figure. His belief in fate, symbolized by his use of a small wooden idol, Yojo, and his acceptance of life's unpredictability, contrasts with Ahab's obsessive need for control and vengeance. QueeQueg's stoic approach to life and death is exemplified when he falls gravely ill and prepares for his own demise by carving a coffin. However, his unexpected recovery from the illness and the later use of the coffin as a life-saving device for Ishmael suggest that QueeQueg, even in apparent defeat, holds a quiet power over life and death. QueeQueg's blend of courage, spirituality, and humanity makes him one of the most compelling and richly developed characters in Moby Dick. Together on the Pequod, they hunted Moby Dick with a formidable crew. Meet Flask, the third mate on board the Pequod. Flask, one of the three mates aboard the Pequod in Moby Dick, is a short, stout, and no-nonsense character whose practical mindset contrasts sharply with the more philosophical nature of his fellow officers. As the third mate, he is responsible for overseeing a portion of the crew, and his approach to whaling is purely businesslike. He views whales as nothing more than large, stubborn creatures to be hunted and killed for profit, showing little reverence or awe for the grandeur of the ocean or the whales themselves. Unlike Starbuck, who has moral qualms, or Stubb, who laughs in the face of danger, Flask is indifferent to the deeper meanings and dangers of the voyage. His nickname, King Post, reflects his sturdy, unmovable nature, as he is described as a man lacking in imagination or deep emotion. While not unkind, Flask's pragmatic and unreflective demeanor highlights his role as a foil to the more introspective and driven characters, especially as he remains largely unaffected by Captain Ahab's obsession with Moby Dick, focusing solely on the task at hand. Flask's role in Moby Dick serves as a grounding force amid the more dramatic and philosophical characters aboard the Pequod. His lack of introspection and emotional detachment from the larger stakes of the voyage make him almost immune to the existential crises that consume others, such as Starbuck's moral dilemmas or Ahab's spiraling obsession. Flask's primary concern is efficiency and the completion of the whaling mission, and he treats the dangerous pursuit of whales with a casual, almost reckless disregard for the potential peril involved. To him, a whale is simply an obstacle to be overcome, not a symbol or a force of nature to be respected. This attitude, while practical, sometimes borders on arrogance, as he does not fully appreciate the dangers of the sea or the mysteries of the creatures they hunt. Though less philosophically inclined, Flask's character is not without complexity. His rough, almost bulldog-like approach to leadership suggests a man who relies on brute strength and tenacity rather than cunning or deep thought to get the job done. This attitude can be seen in his interactions with the crew, where he commands respect through his unyielding demeanor rather than through inspiration or camaraderie. Flask's simplicity, however, does not make him a villain or a fool. Instead, he represents a different kind of resilience, one rooted in the hard, pragmatic demands of the whaling industry. While others are caught up in lofty ideals or doomed obsessions, Flask remains steadfast, an embodiment of the working man focused solely on the tangible results of the hunt. In this way, he serves as a counterbalance to the more introspective or obsessive characters, highlighting the different ways individuals confront the perils and mysteries of the sea. Being less philosophical in nature, he is good in obeying orders from other mates on the Pequod. Meet Stubb, the second mate. Stubb, the second mate aboard the Pequod in Moby Dick, is characterized by his easygoing, cheerful, and often ironic nature. A seasoned whaleman, Stubb faces the dangers of the sea with a laugh and a pipe in hand, adopting a carefree attitude that seems to deflect fear and worry. Unlike the deeply moral Starbuck or the pragmatic Flask, Stubb accepts the uncertainties of life and death with a sense of fatalistic humor, believing that fate is beyond human control. His laughter in the face of peril and his ability to make light of grim situations make him a stabilizing force on the ship, offering a buffer against the darker, more obsessive energies of Captain Ahab. Despite his jovial exterior, Stubb is highly skilled and competent, able to lead his crew with confidence and bravery when hunting whales. His humor masks a deeper philosophical resignation to the unpredictability of life, and though he doesn't dwell on existential questions like some of his shipmates, his ability to remain unshaken by the harsh realities of whaling gives him a unique form of wisdom. Stubb's lightheartedness, even in the face of death, adds a layer of levity to the otherwise intense and brooding atmosphere aboard the Pequod. Stubb's role in Moby Dick extends beyond that of a mere second mate. He represents a philosophy of living in the moment and embracing life's absurdity. His humor, often laced with irony, allows him to face the immense dangers of whaling with a kind of existential acceptance. While others, like Starbuck, are consumed by inner conflicts and moral dilemmas, Stubb simply shrugs off the uncertainty of life at sea. His frequent pipe smoking and casual demeanor in the face of whales, storms, and even Captain Ahab's erratic behavior suggest a man who understands that much of life is beyond control and therefore should not be met with anxiety or despair. Stubb's laughter, however, is not superficial. It reflects a deeper understanding that the universe is indifferent to human desires or fears. In addition to his philosophical outlook, Stubb is also a highly competent and respected leader. His relationship with the crew is marked by camaraderie and a sense of mutual respect. He leads not through intimidation but through a natural, affable authority that endears him to the men. His crew trusts him, not just for his skills as a whaleman, but for his ability to maintain morale under trying circumstances. His humor becomes a form of resilience, a way of keeping spirits high when faced with the grueling realities of whaling, including the blood, death, and endless toil. Though Stubb often seems to dismiss deeper reflection, there are moments where his humor brushes up against darker truths. For example, after the killing of a whale, Stubb famously makes a joke about the whale's severed head, comparing it to a baboon's skull, a macabre jest that reveals his way of coping with the violence of his profession. His jesting nature doesn't negate the serious risks and brutalities of whaling but instead acts as a shield against the weight of those realities. Stubb's fatalism is not defeatist but rather a kind of acceptance that allows him to carry on without succumbing to despair or obsession, unlike Ahab, whose inability to accept fate drives him to destruction. In this way, Stubb embodies a balance between skill, leadership, and a philosophical lightness that stands in stark contrast to the darker forces swirling aboard the Pequod. One of the most intelligent characters in the novel, Stubb follows orders from two people, one of which is Starbuck's. Starbuck, the first mate of the Pequod in Moby Dick, is a central figure who embodies pragmatism, moral integrity, and a deep sense of duty. Unlike Captain Ahab, whose obsession with killing the white whale leads him down a destructive path, Starbuck maintains a more rational and cautious perspective throughout the novel. He is deeply religious and believes in fate, but he also questions Ahab's reckless pursuit of revenge, urging the captain to abandon the dangerous quest. Starbuck's internal conflict reflects the tension between duty and personal morality as he wrestles with the idea of mutiny to save the crew from Ahab's madness. Despite his reservations, Starbuck ultimately remains loyal, making him a tragic figure, bound by duty even in the face of impending doom. His character represents reason, conscience, and a clear-eyed view of the perilous journey aboard the Pequod. Starbuck's character in Moby Dick is marked by his quiet strength and deep introspection, standing in stark contrast to the fiery passion of Captain Ahab. As a seasoned whaler, Starbuck is highly competent and respected by the crew, and his cautious approach to whaling is driven by a desire to preserve the lives of the men aboard the Pequod. His religious convictions play a significant role in shaping his actions and worldview. Starbuck views the hunt for whales as a necessary but dangerous profession, one that requires respect for nature's power and the will of God. This belief puts him at odds with Ahab, whose personal vendetta against the white whale is seen by Starbuck as a dangerous defiance of divine will. Throughout the novel, Starbuck is the only character who openly questions Ahab's authority, urging the captain to turn back and save the crew from inevitable disaster. His moral compass and sense of responsibility weigh heavily on him, and at one point, he contemplates killing Ahab to save the crew, a moment of profound internal struggle. However, Starbuck ultimately cannot bring himself to commit the act, bound by his respect for hierarchy and duty. This inner conflict makes him a deeply human character, representing the ethical dilemmas faced by individuals caught between loyalty and the greater good. His tragic flaw is his inability to act on his convictions, which seals both his fate and that of the crew. In the end, Starbuck's adherence to duty and morality, while admirable, proves insufficient in the face of Ahab's unyielding obsession, leading to the destruction of the Pequod. Should Starbuck's go against the man who caused the demise of the Pequod? That man is Captain Ahab. Captain Ahab, the enigmatic and monomaniacal leader of the Pequod in Moby Dick, is one of the most iconic figures in literature. Scarred both physically and mentally by his previous encounter with the great white whale, Moby Dick, Ahab is driven by an all-consuming obsession to seek revenge on the creature that took his leg. His character is marked by a relentless, almost supernatural determination, and he is often portrayed as a tragic figure whose quest for vengeance against the whale symbolizes humanity's struggle against the indifferent forces of nature. Ahab's presence dominates the novel, and his intense, fiery speeches reveal a man tormented by more than just physical pain. He is grappling with existential questions about fate, free will, and the limits of human power. Though he inspires fear and respect among the crew, his single-minded pursuit of the whale pushes him into dangerous, destructive territory as he disregards the safety of his men and the norms of whaling to achieve his personal goal. Ahab's obsession ultimately becomes his downfall, as he is consumed by his need for vengeance, making him a tragic hero whose hubris and defiance of the natural order lead to inevitable destruction. Ahab's complex character is emblematic of the novel's exploration of obsession, revenge, and the human condition. From the moment he appears on deck, Ahab commands attention with his imposing presence and magnetic charisma. His physical appearance, a tall, imposing figure with a whalebone leg and a face etched with lines of suffering, serves as a reflection of his inner turmoil and relentless spirit. Ahab is not merely a captain. He is a man haunted by the past, and his quest for Moby Dick becomes a personal crusade against the universe itself. His monologues are filled with a profound intensity as he articulates his deep-seated rage and bitterness towards the whale, which he perceives as a malevolent force that must be defeated at any cost. While Ahab is a skilled and experienced captain, his obsession clouds his judgment, leading him to make increasingly reckless decisions that endanger the crew and the voyage itself. He sees Moby Dick not just as a whale but as the embodiment of all the evils and struggles he faces in life, a formidable adversary that must be conquered to regain his lost sense of control and identity. Ahab's relentless pursuit is contrasted with the more cautious and ethical approach of Starbuck, the first mate, who represents the voice of reason and morality. Starbuck's attempts to dissuade Ahab from his dangerous obsession highlight the moral complexities of leadership and the responsibility that comes with it. As the narrative progresses, Ahab becomes increasingly isolated in his singular focus, alienating his crew and even those who admire him. His passionate speeches rally the men, instilling in them a shared sense of purpose, but they also reveal a man whose quest is ultimately doomed. Ahab's determination transforms into a tragic flaw as he becomes blind to the dangers of the sea and the reality of his situation. The novel culminates in a catastrophic confrontation with Moby Dick, where Ahab's hubris and defiance against nature reach their peak. The whale, a symbol of the uncontrollable forces of existence, ultimately proves to be Ahab's undoing, leading to the destruction of the Pequod and the loss of nearly all aboard. Ahab's tragic fate serves as a powerful commentary on the dangers of obsession, the limits of human ambition, and the inevitability of fate in the face of nature's vast, indifferent power. Through Ahab, Melville explores the darker aspects of the human spirit, making him one of literature's most compelling and complex anti-heroes. With an obsession to hunt down Moby Dick, Ahab and his crew pursued the whale relentlessly. Moby Dick, the enigmatic white whale at the center of Melville's Moby Dick, is not merely a creature of the sea. He is a profound symbol of nature's inscrutable power and humanity's struggle against the forces of the universe. Described as an enormous, almost mythical beast with a strikingly pale skin, Moby Dick eludes capture, becoming a legendary figure among whalers. His size and ferocity are matched only by his intelligence and cunning, traits that elevate him beyond a simple adversary and transform him into a living embodiment of nature's wild, untamed spirit. The whale's enigmatic nature captivates and terrifies Ahab, who sees Moby Dick as the manifestation of all his rage and suffering. This obsession drives the narrative, as Ahab's relentless pursuit of the whale becomes a metaphor for humanity's quest for meaning in a chaotic and indifferent universe. Moby Dick's very existence raises profound questions about fate, revenge, and the limits of human ambition, challenging the characters and readers alike to confront the complexities of existence and the often overlooked forces that govern life. As Ahab's nemesis, Moby Dick embodies the eternal conflict between man and nature, symbolizing both the awe-inspiring beauty and the terrifying power of the natural world. Moby Dick is imbued with layers of symbolism and meaning, making him one of literature's most iconic figures. He represents not only the physical challenges faced by whalers, but also the metaphysical struggles inherent in the human condition. As Ahab's obsession deepens, Moby Dick transforms from a mere whale into a powerful force that embodies the themes of fate, revenge, and the existential questions that permeate the novel. The whale's whiteness, often interpreted as a symbol of purity and terror, elicits a paradoxical reaction, evoking both awe and dread in those who encounter him. Ahab perceives Moby Dick not just as a whale but as a profound challenge to his very existence. The whale becomes a reflection of Ahab's own inner demons and a manifestation of the darker aspects of humanity's quest for meaning. Throughout the narrative, Moby Dick remains elusive, often depicted as a ghostly figure in the depths of the ocean. His encounters with the crew of the Pequod are fraught with tension, and each sighting becomes a moment of heightened anticipation and dread. The whale's ability to evade capture speaks to the futility of Ahab's obsession, suggesting that nature cannot be subdued or fully understood. Moby Dick's formidable presence serves as a constant reminder of the limits of human ambition and the inevitable clash between man and the natural world. The whale's sheer size and power also evoke the sublime, a concept prevalent in romantic literature that refers to the overwhelming beauty and terror found in nature. Moby Dick embodies this sublime quality, representing the ultimate challenge to Ahab's authority and the arrogance of mankind in believing it can conquer nature. The whale's existence raises profound philosophical questions about humanity's place in the universe, challenging the crew and Ahab himself to confront the inevitability of fate and the limitations of human understanding. In the climactic confrontation between Ahab and Moby Dick, the whale becomes the catalyst for Ahab's tragic downfall, illustrating the dangers of obsession and the consequences of defying the natural order. Moby Dick's destruction of the Pequod and the annihilation of Ahab and his crew underscore the futility of human endeavors when faced with the vast, indifferent forces of nature. Ultimately, Moby Dick stands as a timeless symbol of the struggle between man and the natural world, evoking questions about existence, purpose, and the inherent mysteries of life that continue to resonate with readers across generations.